What's up, everyone, and welcome to Slasher Quest, the show where I take you on my journey through the 1980s slasher movie catalog, one film at a time. And this time, you don't need to go to Texas to have a chainsaw massacre. Or at least that was the many taglines to today's film. And we're going to be talking about the classic Pieces. So Pieces is from 1982. It is directed by Juan Piquer Simon, and I'm sure I slaughtered that because I'm not even entirely sure what nationality the director is. My guess is maybe Spanish, because this movie is like Spanish, Puerto Rican, Italian, and English, I believe, American. So I'm not really entirely sure what one of those countries he's from. I'm going to take a guess, say Spain. The plot for this one: the co-eds of a Boston college campus are targeted by a mysterious killer who is creating a human jigsaw puzzle from their body parts. How is that for a plot? That's pretty incredible. Only in the 80s can a movie like this exist. The cast: we got Christopher George as Lieutenant Bracken, Linda Day George as Mary Riggs, Frank Branagh as Sergeant Holden, Edmund Purdom as the Dean, Ian Serra as Kendall, and Paul S. Smith as Willard. Pieces is kind of an interesting movie. Like, there's a little bit of giallo, there's a little bit of slasher, and then like a little bit of the so bad that it's good, which I'm a huge fan of. I love that. If you guys have listened to our podcast, you know that we do awesomely bad movie months a few times a year, and yeah, this kind of fits a little bit in there. There's many things that are great in it, and there's some things that are just laughably bad. So yeah, definitely my kind of movie. We get like a starting off point here where we show a young boy who's putting together like a nude woman puzzle. And his mom walks in and she loses it over it, and she's yelling at him and screaming and everything. Well, the boy comes back with an axe and just like hacks the crap out of his mom. He slaughters her. It's super gory, super brutal, and that's a lot of how this movie is. There's another movie that's kind of similar to this, at least at the starting point, which I always get them kind of mixed up, especially at the beginning. It's Nightmares in a Damaged Brain, aka Nightmares. There's a part where a young boy hacks together like a couple with an axe. I don't remember if it was his mom and dad or mom and boyfriend or something. I don't remember. I might get to that movie sometime, I might not, but and that one was actually notorious for saying that Tom Savini did the special effects for it, and Savini has said like, I did not do those, I was not there. But the director like swears that it was Savini that did it. So do we have an imposter? Did Savini do it and just forgot he did it? Who knows? Who's right, who's wrong? Doesn't matter. Like, the fact that you could pass those as Savini was amazing. And I mean, this one's kind of similar too, because the special effects are incredible in this movie. Especially, you know, any 80s gore hound is going to love this. And I'll just start off by saying that. So the cops show up, and, you know, they think that somebody just came into the house and did it, and it wasn't the boy. So boom, there we go. We know he's probably going to be the killer. If you've seen enough slasher movies, you know that's it. Not a huge surprise there. And we get a few years later, and they show like this mysterious guy, all dressed in black with black gloves on. That's where you get the giallo part of it. That's what it made me think of it, at least. And he's going through this box of like his mom's leftover stuff, and I like how there's still blood on the dress and the shoes. Like, no one thought to clean that up, I guess. It looks like somebody just splattered some red paint on it, which makes me laugh. Right after this, we get this odd skateboarding scene of this girl on a skateboard on a campus, and she crashes into a pane of glass. And like, she's freaking out when she's on her way to it. And my thoughts were, you can jump off the skateboard. I would rather fall off a skateboard and skin up my knees or land on my butt than go through a pane of glass and possibly die. But I guess whatever, maybe she wasn't thinking, or maybe this is just a dumb part in the movie, which I kind of think it's the latter. So right after that, we get a man, like the mysterious man, putting the head part of the puzzle on. And this is a recurring thing that goes through the movie. Every time a girl dies on this college, we see the mysterious man with the black gloves putting the puzzle together, and he's like building body part by body part. Um, and that's really the whole kind of thing for pieces. So you'll see that plenty of times in this. And he finds this girl who's laying down in the grass. She's studying or something like that in a quad, and we get some ridiculous shots. Like we show like her legs and her butt basically, and they like zoom in on it, and we're like, okay, like we get it. This is why people are here to watch this, I guess. But he ends up lopping the girl's head off with a chainsaw, and it is ridiculous. There's so many chainsaw kills in this movie that are just over the top, and I think better than anything that Texas Chainsaw Massacre has ever done. It's always just kind of implied in Texas Chainsaw Massacre, or you get, oh, he's gonna cut into his leg, or he's gonna put the chainsaw through someone. No, we get like dismemberment, and we get like some brutal close-up shots of a chainsaw ripping through people in this movie. So, I mean, if that's kind of your thing, which, I mean, I'm doing a show here about slasher movies, so it's kind of my thing, then you'll probably really like it. We get some really funny dialogue in this movie. The one that really stands out to me, and it's one of my favorite lines in this, we get this girl with her friends, and like they're all smoking weed, and they're talking about water beds and everything. And
saw the waterbed in the training room.
Have you ever been laid on a waterbed? The most beautiful thing in the world is smoking pot and fucking on a waterbed at the same time.
I guess that checks out. Like, I can't say that I've ever done it on a waterbed. To me, I guess it would be kind of awkward, and I put it all out there. I've never smoked pot, so I can't really attest to that either. But yeah, that line is it's so dubbed over, and it's like, was that the original line for this movie, or was that something they added in later? Because you know, much like the Italian slasher or gore movies of the time, all the dialogue is dubbed over. Even the people that are speaking in English, it's all dubbed over, like in post. But yeah, that's by far one of the funniest lines. And I actually saw this movie a couple months ago in a local theater. They had a horror marathon for 12 hours, and this movie was a lot of the reason I went to it. And when that line hit, the entire crowd just like laughed, and it was such a great environment to watch this movie in. And there's a lot of weird stuff like later on in this movie like that too. I'll just go to like other random things that happen in this movie, things that stand out to me, and then I'll get to the kills, because the kills are what everybody's here for. There's a funny moment in a library where Kendall, who's like the main, kind of like the main character, like the main student, I guess, because we've got Mary, who she's like a detective, and she's the main character. But Kendall's sitting in the library, and he gets a note passed to him by this girl that said, "I want to do it underwater, see you in a pool." And then like she walks to the pool, and she's getting undressed, and she has a swimsuit under her clothes. Like, she was just sitting in the library studying, and then she got up and she undressed, but she had a swimsuit on under her clothes, not like her underwear. And I'm just thinking, like, I guess, am I the only one that's not gonna do that? Like, the reality of this movie just cracks me up. And I mentioned Mary before. She's played by Linda Day George, and she's supposed to be like this former tennis star, and she's supposed to be there to like teach the tennis team at the college. She's supposed to be, yeah, supposed to be this former tennis star, and she's got terrible form. It just made me laugh. Like, I don't really know much about tennis, but I know that the way she was playing it was not very good. She's trying to figure out, you know, who's doing all these murders and stuff, and she's working with the police to try to find the person and stop all this. Some more random things that we get in this movie. So some more random things we get in this movie. There's a part where Linda George's character is walking around, and around the corner, like, this guy jumps out and starts doing kung fu, and he looks like a complete like Bruce Lee ripoff. And he's like coming after her, like trying to attack her, and she just pops him in the balls, and he falls down. And then like here comes Kendall out of nowhere on his Montesa Enduro bike. And he's like, "Oh my gosh, that's my kung fu instructor." And it's like, "You have a kung fu instructor at your college?" I was like, "Why is he attacking this random woman?" And then he gets up and he says one of the most racist things in this movie, and that's,
Oh,
I am out jogging, and next thing I know, I am on ground. Something I eat. Bad chop suey. So long.
Take it easy.
So yeah, that not insensitive or racist at all. So from then on, like Kendall goes and walks Mary home, and he's like apparently ditches his dirt bike, I guess. He walks her home, and she goes to the door, and she's like, "All right, I'll see you later." And he's like, "Wait a minute, aren't you gonna make coffee?" And she looks at him, and he like looks at her and smiles, and then she just kind of pats him on the face and says, "Have a good night, Kendall." And then it's so weird when he turns around, like this dude pops up with a mask somewhere, and then he calls him like Romeo or like Ladies Man or something like that, makes a fart noise, and then runs off. And I'm like, this is so bizarre. Like, what makes me laugh too is that like Kendall, this entire movie, like he's just an average looking dude. He's not bad looking, not like a great looking guy, but the women just freaking love him. Like, what is going on? There's like Mary flirts with him a lot. Like, obviously she's not interested because she won't make coffee. But then they show him earlier on with the girl that wanted to do him in the pool, and then later, like, they show him like in bed with this girl who's like screaming and like going nuts in bed with him. He gets off because he hears something, and she's just like, "Oh, I'm sorry that I'm loud," kind of thing. She's like, "Please, Kendall, can we do it again? Can we do it again?" And he says no because he's got to leave. And she's like, "I won't be too loud. I'll gag myself, and you won't hear a thing." I'm like, what in the heck? Like how good is Kendall? Like he's like it's like a ladies' man, and he's just like this average looking dude. That whole thing just cracks me up, and it's really something I noticed this time watching it, which is probably like my 6th time overall, something like that. Just hilarious, like how these gorgeous women are just throwing themselves at him. We get some really clunky lines too, and probably my favorite lines in this movie. We get like this brutal kill, which I'll cover when we get to the kills, but Mary's reaction to it is hilarious. They walk out, and she screams "bastard" like 3 times and has like this long pause before she screams the last one.
Yes! While we were out here fumbling with that music, the lousy bastard was in there killing her! Bastard! Bastard! Bastard!
Like, this is another line that just made the theater roar in laughter, and it gets me every time because she says it twice, and then she pauses, and it looks like the guy playing Kendall's gonna say something, and then she screams it again, and he's like, "This isn't over. It's not my turn yet." Which, Linda George, she's just a doll. She seems like just the sweetest lady. And you even see pictures of her now, and she seems just like the sweet, like cute little grandma. And I don't know. There's something about her. She's just charming. But her acting in this is so like over the top, so crazy. And this, kind of starts leading towards the end where Linda George's character, Mary, goes and visits the dean, and he's talking to her. And that's where we find out, like, oh man, the dean is the one that's been killing these girls because he's the boy from the beginning. And Kendall and the police detective, they figure it out and they rush over. But at first, it's like the detective goes off. He's talking on the phone, and he comes back, and Kendall's like, "What's wrong?" And he's like, "Oh, I gotta go." It's like, we found out the killer is the dean. And he's like slowly putting his coat on, and then it's not until Kendall's like, "Oh man," he's like, "Mary was supposed to meet him for dinner." And that's when they rush. Like, you're not gonna rush knowing that you're catching this guy who's already killed like 5 people in a school. Like, it just cracks me up. And we get like this final fight here with the dean after he slips a Mickey in Mary's drink and she can't move. Kendall's like wrestling with him, and then the detective comes in and shoots the dean right between the eyes and takes him out. So after that, they go to like the dean's house, and they're like searching around trying to find all this evidence and stuff. And that's when they open the closet, and the living corpse puzzle falls out. And it leads up to one of the most ridiculously crazy laugh out loud slasher movie endings that I have ever seen. The first time I saw this, I about peed my pants laughing at it. So Kendall's standing there and they're like, oh, everybody's like shocked and like screaming over this corpse that falls out, right? Because it's a complete utter surprise. But that's not the biggest surprise, because the corpse comes alive, reaches up, grabs Kendall by the dick, and rips his junk off. And he screams. And we get like a grasp, a squeeze, and a pop. Like, I'm not sure what popped, but Kendall's just like screaming bloody murder, and that's the end of the movie. Like, you know, you got Sleepaway Camp that's got one of the most blow your mind endings, and then you got this movie, which is shocking, but in a different way, because it's like shocking that it's like, what world does this work? And apparently Kendall's D game was so strong that even this corpse woman wanted to grab a hold of it. But the idea of like this body made out of mixed match pieces stitched together can come alive and rip a guy's junk off. That's 80 slashers for you, people. So to talk about more of the kills here, we get the first kill, which is Mrs. Reston. We talked about it was her son Timmy hacked her up with an axe. That's really brutal. And then we flash forward to like the quote unquote present day. That's where you get Virginia Palmer. That's a girl whose butt they zoomed in on. Which they spent so much time like zooming in on her butt and her legs. Like, I thought that he was gonna take her legs for the part, but he ends up lopping her head off, and that shot is just ridiculous. We get like this big swipe, and all of a sudden, boom, there goes her head. An iconic shot in pieces there. And then we get another chainsaw kill. This time it's Jenny. So Jenny, yeah, she gets lopped up next with a chainsaw, and that's how he gets his torso to use. There must have been something about her that he really enjoyed. It's just funny, like, seeing, like, this is what the killer likes. This is what he's going to use for his quote-unquote pieces. And then we get the next one, which is Mary, which is one that always really stands out to me, too, because of the complete brutality of it. He's following her around, and she's screaming. They go into an elevator, and she tries to, like, cower in the corner. She's got no place to go. And this dude's got this chainsaw, and he just, like, lops her arms off with it. And with ease. It's like he's using a katana sword, a red hot katana sword going through a stick of butter. Like, there's no resistance at all. And it's just amazing. And the blood splatter is ridiculous. That one's kind of top notch as well. And then we get this girl named Sylvia who gets stabbed to death on a waterbed. That one is really like unnerving. That one's brutal and unnerving. I don't know, maybe one of the most impactful kills in the movie, and one that really like kind of is gut wrenching, because she fights back for so long, and just the terror in her face. Like, that actress did an awesome job in that part. And she gets a knife like through the back of the head and out through her mouth, and it's just cringy, and the level of gore in it is just, it's brutal. That's all I can say, is it's brutal. And then we get probably the most intense, ridiculous kill in this movie. I talked about the last one with Sylvia and like her acting and everything, but this girl, she takes it to a different level. Her name is Susie. She gets chased in a locker room, and she like backs up into a bathroom, and she's trying to hide from the killer. Well, he puts a chainsaw right through the door, like right next to her, and she cowers into the corner, and he cuts out part of the door so he can reach in and open it. And while she's like in the corner screaming, like she pees her pants and everything. And it's just, to me, that is really, really gripping, because it's realistic. It feels like someone that is being chased by someone trying to kill them, and the way they would react. Because I can't even imagine, if I was being chased by someone with a chainsaw trying to hack me up, I'd probably pee my pants too. And then we get to see this chainsaw like rip through this girl's side, which is extremely effective. Like, I know it's a dummy, but the fact that this chainsaw, you can see it is like gripping and ripping through this girl's side is just gross. And then that's when Kendall discovers the girl, and this is right before the bastard scene, but the entire bathroom stall is just covered in blood, and half of her body is laying there because the killer takes her legs to put on the puzzle. And it's so disgusting. Like, I'm sure you've probably seen that image without knowing what movie it is from. And then this leads to Dean Foley, slash Timmy Reston is his name. That's him getting shot. I've talked about that. And then lastly, like, it's not really a death, but Kendall's junk dies. The corpse explodes it. So we got that thrown in as well. I'll count that as kind of a kill. Just special effects craziness. So now into the grades. This movie is really pretty good. It's really one of my higher rated ones. And I feel like the more I see it, the more I really enjoy this movie. And let's just get into my categories here. So for my special effects, I gave this a 10. It's really hard to top some of the special effects in this movie. There are a couple movies I've seen that have better ones, like better kills, better looking blood, but the intensity and the realism in some parts is really effective. And, I couldn't give it anything less than a 10. The acting I gave a 6 because, there is some really good acting. I talked about Sylvia and Susie being really good in their death scenes. And then the guy who plays Kendall's pretty good too. But then you got Linda Day George, who's kind of clunky at times. Christopher George is really good as the detective. But there's some others, the girl who talks about having sex in a waterbed and smoking pot, like just terribly wooden and just weird, like out of context. Like if you saw these things out of context, you'd be like, what the hell's going on? If you see him in the movie, it's not even that much better. So it was pretty easy to give that a 6. The plot I give an 8 because it's kind of an interesting idea how this killer is obsessed with like the ideal woman. So he cuts off pieces that he likes and puts them together into his ideal woman. Kind of gruesome, but yeah, kind of interesting at the same time. The ending I give a 9 because it's so batshit crazy that I love it. The killer I give an 8 because he's cool looking. He's got this trench coat with his big fedora hat and black gloves. He just looks cool. The kills I gave a 9. Like some of them are pretty gruesome. I've seen ones that are maybe a little more imaginative, but these are really effective, so I had to give it a 9. In the replay value, I give an 8. This is a movie I've seen quite a few times, and I'm probably going to watch it quite a few times. I wish I owned a physical copy of it, but I do not. I know that like the Laserdisc, the Beta, and the VHS are all extremely overpriced. Even a Lucy Beta that is untested on eBay is like $35 and I can't talk the guy down. So not gonna happen, bro. So to wrap it up, if you've never seen Pieces before and you love crazy slasher movies with intense gore and cool kills, then this is really the movie for you. If you're looking for one that maybe has a little more story or some quality acting or, even some interesting dialogue, then this probably is not the right movie for you. But I've really never met anybody who's a fan of slasher movies that has seen Pieces and doesn't love it. And, small fact here that this is actually Eli Roth's favorite slasher movie. He's talked about it plenty of times. He talked about it on Talk as Jericho one time, and just anytime he's talked about slasher movies, he always mentions Pieces. And I mean, for good reason. It's an interesting idea. It's got brutal kills, and it moves along at a quick pace. It's something that you can watch every time. You can get some laughs out of. You definitely get some entertainment out of. And, like I said, if you're a gore hound, you're going to love this one. So if you made it to the end, now you get to hear me talk about the other stuff that I do. You can follow me on Twitter. I'm at SlasherQuest. My podcast is at Rock Video Rental. If you want to listen to the podcast, we're on every platform, basically every platform you can think of. Rock Video Rental. We release episodes every single Friday. We do a lot of horror. We do a lot of awesomely bad movies. We do theme months. At this moment, we're doing Alien Month. So if you're into that kind of thing, check it out. It's me and my friend Caleb. We've done over 200 episodes now. So check that out if you're interested. And if you want to see me talk more about slasher movies, go back and watch some of the other episodes. The last one was The Mutilator, and bias here, I thought it was one of my best ones. So go and check that out. Another great movie that's got some funny moments in it. But as for now, that is it for this episode. And as always, be kind and rewind.